All right, that's cool. I'm just in the... Why? Are you ready to start? Or do you need any time?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you decide to come to Columbia College?
Well, originally I was interested in, actually, here, let me take my headphones off. I was worried there might be an echo, but I don't think there is. Originally I was interested in doing music business, which is why I first started looking at Columbia, because they're one of the few places, I think, that have a good music business program. And ultimately I decided I was interested in marketing, decided on a whim to just apply and just decided to go. I mean, I really liked the idea that there were teachers working in the field and that I would get to do a lot of hands-on work in my classes. So overall, I think it was a great decision.
Okay, what was your concentration?
My concentration is advertising.
Advertising? All right. What classes did you take on the Columbia campus that prepared you for your work abroad?
Well, obviously Chinese 1 and Chinese 2, and then I also took Global PR China, and finally I took the International Marketing Program in Prague, which gave a little bit of study abroad experience and a little bit of work abroad experience, and is actually what ultimately led me to get my internship at DraftFCB in China. So
awesome. What made you decide to move to China?
Well, I was really interested in learning the language, and it's just a great environment to learn it in, obviously. And I mean, they've got a really exciting changes. They've got a lot of really exciting changes happening right now with the economy, with social issues, everything. So that'd be really interesting to explore it. And I'm in Shanghai, which is a very modern city. So it's beautiful. I saw a picture when I was back in high school, and it has just a really futuristic skyline, really just interesting architecture. So it's a combination of definitely Chinese, old China, new China, all mixing it together.
So it was the language that's how you started actually getting interested in perhaps marketing in China, or, you just had the interest and then that grew into other interests?
I would definitely say it started with the language, just because I was really interested in learning the language overall, and then I kind of got interested in marketing when I came over here.
Okay. Does the city remind you of any other city you have been to?
Well, Shanghai is just kind of a huge city. Overall, maybe it reminds me a bit of New York, but it's definitely unique in that there's a huge fusion of all these different cultures here.
Okay. What's a typical day like at DraftFCB in China?
Well, I work in the planning department, so I have a mentor in the planning department named Tommy, and I'll just ask whatever he needs help with for the day, and some of the other people in the office will give me tasks to do. So usually I do research or I make presentations. I've gotten to write a discussion guide for some Oreo research, and then I do a lot of research on just how advertising works in China, because coming in I had no idea, so starting from scratch. And some days we do meetings with creatives, which is a lot of fun because they show us what they're working on and ask for suggestions, and I think that's really cool.
What kind of campaigns are you working on? Anything in
I'm working with Oreo and Chips Ahoy mainly, but I'm also working with Valspar and Huarun, which is a Chinese paint company, and Boeing.
What are the major cultural differences between China and America? What in particular really stands out?
Well, I would say that, first of all, just standing out in general is something that's definitely unique. I can go about my business in Chicago with nobody looking at me, but here, just walking down the street, I mean, depending on which part of the city you're in, I'm not in a very westernized part of the city, I would say. So walking around, people will kind of look at me, maybe say, oh, you go Uyghur, you're in like a foreign woman, and stuff like that when I walk by. So it's kind of a little bit weird. And I'm definitely just kind of used to not really standing out. So it's definitely interesting. But I mean, in general, most people are just curious and they just want to talk a bit about where I'm from. So it's not a big deal. I'd also say it's really funny. All the old people here are really active. So I'll be walking home during the night and then I'll hear pop music just blasting. And I'll look over, there'll be a bunch of old people just dancing and just in a public park. It's really cute, I think, and good for them for being active.
So I'm assuming then you had to learn the language, or if let's say I went to China, I would not really be okay? Because I know absolutely no Chinese, so.
Well, there are actually a bunch of students who came to my program not knowing any Chinese at all when they got here. So they first started learning how to say hello and everything when they arrived. And obviously they survived, they made it through, but I would say it's very difficult. I was a bit surprised, even in Shanghai, because I thought like all the taxi drivers would probably speak English, all the storekeepers would probably speak English. That's not really the case. In some stores, maybe, but I actually kind of prefer it that way, because if you're trying to learn the language, if people keep trying to speak English to you, you might just want to use English because it's easier. So I would say overall it's really difficult if you don't know the language. And even I've studied Chinese for a year, and or studied Chinese for a year of courses, and sometimes it's an interesting experience to see if I'll get to the right place. Even my friend who's Shanghainese was taken to the wrong club the other night because a taxi driver couldn't understand him. So I would say it'd be really difficult, so I would suggest if anyone's interested in coming to China, they take Chinese courses at Columbia or use Columbia's tutoring program just to learn a bit. And just to make sure that they actually want to learn Chinese, because it's a huge commitment, more so than other languages, because you have to learn all the characters and everything.
Right. What's, just out of curiosity, what's your diet like? Is it very different in China than it was in America or even Prague?
What's what like? Sorry.
Your diet, like
my diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit different. I eat a lot of sushi here because it's really cheap. All of the food is really, really, really cheap here. So we eat a lot of sushi, a lot of fried rice, dumplings. The soup dumplings, xiaolongbao, are really tasty. And so I don't really eat cheese anymore because I don't really have it here. They don't have peanut butter that tastes good, or you could peanut butter cups. So. Those are absent, and I would say it's kind of hard to be vegetarian or vegan here because meat might be randomly inserted into things that you wouldn't think meat would be in.
Oh.
And additionally, if you do eat meat, they leave the bones in all of the meat, so you have to kind of navigate through whatever you're eating. So I would say I mainly just turned to eating a lot of rice. I mean, the food's delicious, don't get me wrong, and I have eaten street food, which has absolutely no regulations. They cut the meat on the dirty ground, and then they fry it, or they cook it, and then they serve it to you. So it's...
Was it good?
Yeah. I did a over national holiday, which is a 1-week holiday, which literally everyone in China has off. So it was a really interesting travel week. I went to Sichuan, and I was up in the mountains. There was an old lady selling potatoes. And I figured if there's one thing I was going to get sick from in China, I'd be buying potatoes from this random old lady. But it tasted great, and I didn't get sick. So I guess there you have it. I think the food's pretty tasty here, and overall.
Are there a lot of women working in the agency, working at DraftFCB? And if so, do they have executive positions, or would you say it's predominantly men?
I would say in my office it might be slightly more men than women, but as far as management positions go, in Greater China there's 5 top positions, and 4 of them are held by women at my office. And additionally, half of the world's billionaires, self-made female billionaires are from China. So I thought that's really interesting. The work environment here for men and women is actually pretty good, I would say.
What are your career aspirations and why?
I kind of haven't decided completely yet. I definitely want to work for an international agency because it's been a lot of fun. And it's really convenient, if you want to go someplace else in the world, perhaps it's a bit easier because you already have connections within the agency. And I do like planning, but I also like creative, so I'll have to make a decision eventually, I suppose. But I'm kind of experimenting right now to see where I'd be more comfortable.
What advice would you give to students who are interested in global marketing?
Well, I would definitely say that you have to study abroad, or at least try to work abroad a bit, because I don't think until you've actually experienced it for yourself, you can really understand how different things are. I read a lot of books and things before I came to China, but even from reading the books and talking to my Chinese friends, I couldn't quite completely understand how a Chinese person may react to different products, or even just it's interesting things you don't think about before you come. Like one of my classes, Chips Ahoy, I have the package here. I don't know, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
And they don't have ovens here, so the concept of like a freshly baked cookie is completely foreign. So when you're advertising the cookies to them, you need to not only advertise the cookies, but also explain what a cookie is. Whereas in America, you don't need to do that. Everyone knows what a cookie is. Everyone's had that experience. So until I got here, I just never really thought about it. I knew they didn't have ovens, but I've never really connected the dots. And if you can't study abroad, though, if that's not something that you can do, then I would suggest definitely joining ISO, doing global marketing. I know Sandra Komorowski teaches international advertising, and I love her, so definitely take her class. And just as many courses as you could take on the subject matter, because they definitely get you reading the literature and watching the documentaries that you should start watching if you're curious about working abroad.
What advice would you give students interested in traveling to China? I know you already said to take the language classes, but do you have any other really helpful advice? Or
definitely, I would just suggest that they make sure to look up what's available here and what's not before they come, because yet again, there's a lot of stuff that you think that you could find, even especially in a big metropolis like Shanghai, but you can't. A lot of the medication here is fake, so you definitely need to bring even your own cold medicine and aspirin and bring all that stuff with you. So it's just definitely make sure you read up a lot about the country before you come, lest you be needing to be shipped a bunch of packages full of stuff that you forgot, as I was. And I would say just if they can, I would join ASO. ISO, there's a lot of great Chinese students at Columbia, and they would probably love to talk to students interested in going to China a bit more about what it's like.
What's your living situation like there? Can you tell us about the campus? Or
Yeah, I live on ECNU's campus. I go to East China Normal University, which is Huadong in Chinese. And it's a really nice campus. We have our own river, and then people will come in from around the city and go fishing. The dorms that we live in are incredibly nice. I've got a queen-size bed and everything in my dorm, so it's definitely not what you'd expect, although I would say the dorms for Westerners are certainly different than the dorms for the Chinese students, because I suppose we pay more to go here, I guess, and then additionally, I think Westerners need more amenities. Mm-hmm. So compared to the Chinese dorms, it's night and day. One thing that is kind of a bit annoying, and I'm not sure if it's just because I live on a campus as opposed to at Columbia where I lived in an apartment, is they do lock down the campus at 12. So it becomes an ordeal. You have to sneak out if you want to go out or come back in after 12, which is definitely interesting. But living on campus is a lot of fun. You definitely get to meet a lot of cool people, and we have this area called the Homen, or the back gate, which is just an alley full of street food, street clothes, pirated DVDs and games, everything. I mean, they have like quintessential China back there, basically. Perhaps that's not the right term, but just kind of what you'd imagine China to be like.
Yeah,
I suppose. And so it's cool. It's cool.
Okay, well, that pretty much concludes any questions I have. Do you have anything else you want to say, or?
I don't really have anything else, but I do know that you asked in your email if I'd like to put my email for the other students to contact me.
Yes.
They may if they need to. If they have any questions about China or marketing abroad, or even Prague, I could answer a few questions about that as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you.